Welcome to the Game Changer 00100 show. I'm your host, Game Changer. And right now, it's late, but I'm going to respond to BGS. And then I'm going to relax a bit, hop in the shower, and then go to bed because my eyes are heavy. I've been working all day and listening to YouTube intermittently. So, but I want to answer this question while it's still fresh on my mind. And BGS posed a very interesting question, one that was left unanswered a couple of years ago, about 20 months ago. So, and that is, should educated lames and and nerds leave the black community? Okay, now first I want to give a little history on why this question was addressed to me. So, this past Saturday night when he did his hangout, I think it's called the Arena or the Coliseum or something like that. My name came up by I think it was Charles Faulkner or somebody, and niggas was making fun. They don't like the way I talk. Something about me just rubs them, blah blah blah. Just typical nigga type shit. I mean, drunk niggas on a Saturday night listening to a 60-year-old dude. What do you expect? Anyway, so BGS, of all people, said that I was the definition or the epitome or the embodiment of educated lame, and I was like, God damn, that's kind of fucked up to use that term as a pejorative. Now, keep in mind, I don't really mind direct insults. I've been called all kind of shit with between people I'm cool with. I actually have friends who would call me lame from time to time, and I don't really give a shit about stuff like that. You see, here's the thing. Um, in certain circumstances, I'm lame in the sense that I don't smoke weed. So when I'm around friends who smoke weed and they're passing it, I in that particular setting I would be lame. Yeah, I don't drink. So in where if fellas are drinking and I'm not participating, I am lame in that regard. I'm uneventful in that particular way. There was a time prior to high school where I didn't dance. So that also earned me the title. Lane was really in a specific context when it was applied to me, and I ate the title. I'm like, say what the fuck you want to say. I'm not gonna smoke weed, or I'm not gonna drink, or I'm not going to. I don't really kick it with crackheads, but and I did actually, get comfortable on the dance floor by high school. So fortunate for me. So maybe that's peer pressure working in the opposite direction. But it was never really a big deal. I mean, I'll call my partner that because, like, I had a partner. I don't know what happened to him, but I had a partner in high school. He was um, he wasn't really like a Pookie Ray Ray type, but he was what a white girl would call a bad boy. So take from that what you would. Um, but he was reputedly not afraid of many things, but he was scared to death of roller coasters. And so, yeah, in that regard, he was lame. We all about to hop on a ride. This was like with class trips and shit. We all about to hop on a ride, and he don't want to hop on because he's scared and shit. So hey, that's lame. So some people have lame things about them. It's really not a big thing. Educated lame is a whole different animal because by conflating the two, you're shaming. You're making one synonymous with the other, and you're shaming a person for being educated by association. That is when there's a problem. Now, it wasn't really a problem that he just called me that. Had he said that about anyone, it would be a very upsetting thing, especially somebody who's attempting to uplift black men, and especially coming from somebody who claims to promote education amongst black men. It just, God, so it just really hit hard. The only reason why it was actually brought to my attention was because one of my subscribers sent me the link because it was referring to me. But that's neither here nor, as far as I'm concerned, that's neither here nor there. The fact that it was my name, the fact that he said that word, that's like the N word. Shout out to Xanatos. That's like the N word. It's a very destructive thing to say, especially in these times when it is vital to have unity between different intellectual classes of black people, or academic classes of black people, and really just black people in general. Economic classes of black people, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we have to come together if we want to allow the society to function. And shit like that is just not gonna cut it. I mean, you're stirring a boiling pot at that point. So the next day, Sunday, yesterday, he said, he was talking against, just like on the video. I'm pretty sure you all watched it because this is a response to his Educated Lame video where he posed a question, and it was posed to me because my name was in the thing. So he spent like yesterday and today explaining where he's, showing past videos explaining where he stood on the issue. That does not change what was said Saturday night at all. This has never happened, but you ever meet like a Rachel Dolezal, like this, like a true NAACP and fighting for the rights of colored and people, and we're all the way down Antifa warrior type, and then one day they just say, "You fucking nigger," and your whole perception of them change. It was kind of that type of moment, and it's like, and yeah, that white person would look to the past and be like, wait a minute, I've donated $60,000 to the United something or other college fund, or the National Society for the Advancement of, I did that, but so it was just a mistake. I was upset. Seinfeld guy, come on now. It's kind of like that's what's going on. It's like, this is a reminder of where he stood, of his past championing of the educated lames and sympathy for the situation. I mean, but that was then. The other night, you called someone, in this case me, an educated lame in an attempt to shame me, and then talked about pussy. Oh God. I would rather not. Well, I don't want to say I would rather not hear a 60-year-old man talk about pussy, but it's gonna happen, I guess. What can you do? Anyway. So where was I? So that happened. Now, I understand what he is going through. Because my tongue has slipped. And I'm not going to say I'm a very humble person, but I would rather, when I am rightly wrong, I would rather apologize than to become entrenched. Because once you become, in order to become entrenched on something that you did wrong, you have to give yourself a moral justification for your action. And once Frederick Douglass wrote about this, by the way, it's an autobiography. And once you develop that moral justification for what you did, then you can use that justification for future misdeeds. So, which is why when I truly feel that I have wronged someone, I apologize. Even if the person still hates me, I had a situation where I apologized to a YouTuber who still hates me for whatever reason. But I did rightly wrong that person, and I wanted to make sure that I got that out. So so I know that I am incapable of doing something like that again. Now, I'm not going to hold BGS to that burden for a simple reason, and that is because he is entrenched in his reputation of intellectual infallibility. He is the master teacher. He cannot make mistakes. And he has to protect this reputation, which means he's not going to apologize. Um, he knows what he did was fucked up, and it runs contra to everything that he said before, especially in his most recent videos with my name in it. He knows that, but he won't say, you know something, I should not have said that. Game changer. I was caught up in the moment. Niggas was jumping on you. We had our spats in the past, and I seen an opportunity to just fucking gut punch you too. So like, I mean, he's not going to say that. You know, he said I seen an opportunity, but I took it too far. He's not going to. That's just not gonna happen. So is what it is. I'm not going to hold him to that, because what's going to wind up happening is he'll become more entrenched. He'll develop his own moral justifications for doing that, and he will use that justifications to just continue to spout educated lame rhetoric and shit like that, whether it's to me individually, or he'll expand it to give himself a clear moral justification. Don't want that to happen. Don't really give a shit what he thinks. So I'm gonna let it go. All right. So and now we're here. And now he posed a very serious question, one that I asked on MOT's Hangout because I seen it there yesterday. And I think it's worth exploring. But first, people should know something about me. I did not have it that bad um, as a lame or a nerd. Um, a lame in the sense that I didn't do certain things that people would consider exciting, like smoke weed, or actually, that's not even exciting. Actually, looking back on it, they were more lame than I was. Yeah, getting high all day is pretty fucking lame. It's a stoner thing. Anyway, so where was I with this? As someone with a particular set of interests that's not mainstream, um, I didn't really have it that bad. So I can't really say that I want to personally. I mean, the question was addressed to me. So personally, I can't say that I want to turn my back on the black community, um, because it wasn't really that bad for me. In fact, I get the feeling, and this comes from like television and movies and shit like that, and just white people in general, because they're the ones who coined the term nerd. Um, that that things would probably be worse were I a white nerd than a black nerd. Like, and probably things is just because it's the movies, and they exaggerate, but they be wedging niggas or nerds and shit, and they push them in lockers, and bitches don't want to fuck them, and just all kind of degradation and taping their asses cheeks together, and just all kind of shit, all kind of fucked up shit that happened to white nerds, because for whatever reason it seems like their culture is more hostile to nerds than other ones, um, or at least to my than my personal experience in the black community. Now, as far as the females go, there were okay, and like I say, this is specific to the place and time that I grew up, and A1 can attest to this. It wasn't really a Pookie Ray Ray um, educated lame thing going on. If a Pookie and Ray Ray person, now, mind you, there was a money factor that could not be ignored. Now, it wasn't much money, but it was much more than what I had as and they got it a lot younger than I was. So there were, like before I can even get a work permit at 16, they started, grinding or selling drugs on the streets and shit like that and making money that way. Now, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a lot to a teenager. Um, and there were girls who were interested in that, and then there were girls who just found that particular lifestyle exciting. Um, in my opinion, it was actually more of those guys than it was women that were interested in them. Yes, they had women that were interested in them, don't get me wrong. And yes, they had women who were exclusively fucking with the Pookie Ray Ray types. But that there were still more Pookie and Ray Rays than there were girls that were, out after them. It's so you know there wasn't much of a dating advantage that I can see. Now there were neutral girls who dated a guy no matter whether he was educated, lame, or Pookie Ray Ray, or an athlete or anything. These are girls who go purely off of looks, or purely off of charisma, or purely off of what C Boogie said, make the pussy wet. Occupation aside, you make the pussy wet. Um, and those girls were up for grabs. I mean, if you lost that girl to a Pookie Ray Ray type, you didn't really lose her to him because he's a Pookie Ray Ray. Like, when it came to girls like that, I could just honestly look and say, oh shit, that nigga is far better looking than I am. That is a jawline nigga that just happened to be a Pookie and Ray Ray. That's just how that was. I mean, if he was a jawline educated lame nigga, then she would be fucking him. I mean, that's so you had those, and then you had the ones that would never, under any circumstances, fuck with a Pookie or Ray Ray. Um, but I didn't really see any advantages one way or another. And I wasn't, and this is growing up. Um, it wasn't really like a life disadvantage being a nerd. The community was not hostile towards me. In fact, they were pretty welcoming because they thought the way that I talk, and and these are hood people. These are actual hood people. These are actual Pookie and Ray Rays and shit that I was in the building with. And they just I mean, we just kicked it and shit. These were some of them were older and shit, and some of them were younger. It just was what it was. Like it. I mean, it was just like a different personality. It was just like a different personality type um, that you possessed. So the point of the story is, or stories, or whatever you want to call it, is that the community didn't really wasn't really hostile towards me. You know, was I called a nerd as a bad thing? Yeah, you know, um, but it wasn't in the context that BGS called it. It was more like um, we're talking shit, we're playing the dozens, and that's the shit that niggas is gonna attack. You know, but I didn't really. It wasn't like a bad thing, and trust me, I said worse shit about them than than they did about me. when I played the dozens, I used to draw crowds in junior high. That shit was funny as fuck. Um, anyway, so should I turn my back on it? Well, the short answer is no, I shouldn't. And that is because, at least growing up, they did not turn their back on me in any regard. So I had a good run of it. Some people, shout out to Xanatos, didn't have it so good. Um, and it's regional. It's time and place. Somebody there could be like a nerd in the same high school, but instead of then, he's there right now, going through complete and total hell. And somebody in Washington D.C. could have a better run of it. It's a fucking trend. Like you just grow up in a place and time where light skin is in, and you just happen to be light skin at that point. You just happen to be a light skinned dude at the point where light skin is in, and then next thing you know, it's out. So I mean, it is what it is. Somebody could like work out their whole life, and then next thing you know, it's like, ew, muscles is so 2018. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, it is what it is. So I wouldn't do it. I would say to anyone else, and when I say wouldn't do it, I don't really see a need to leave the black community. Now, okay, let me speak on this. As far as the women go, nerds, educated guys, um, whatever you want to call them, whatever, classic man or what have you. Um, Women, for the most part, are right to be cautious about guys like that, guys like us. You're very right to be cautious of it. Um, a lot of it is fear, and I know that you actually have to be in that circle to understand. People just think that it's pure lameness and swag or some bullshit like that. No, a lot of it is fear, and it's highly justified fear. And this is what, and people say I hate black women, but I don't know where they get that shit from. Perhaps y'all can explain it to me in the comment section. But I'm actually your biggest champion, because you all were my biggest champion when I was too small for the grade I was in, and I was getting jumped that time. It wasn't the dudes that broke that shit up. I got jumped over some bullshit. I got jumped because in junior high, I used to blow bubbles with bubble gum, really big, and people used to walk around and see that. And then this fucking Ray Ray nigga came and popped it, and I started swinging on him, and then he attacked me, but I was too close to him by the time he did. So I was in past his reach, and then niggas came and jumped me, and because we live in a matriarchy, it was the females that got him off me. So I mean, I can't really be that mad. But anyway, they're right to stay away. Or they're right. I shouldn't say stay away, but they're right to tread with caution, because you're dealing with men who always have the future in mind, who always plan for something better. And unfortunately for ladies, that is not limited to women. Where, and let's just say, not even Pookie and Ray Ray, but let's just say most everyone else is easily content. They don't have, they don't plan to start Facebook or anything like that. It's not, they And this is not a shot at any other groups, but I'm just saying that certain people who fall under the category of classic or educated lame, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Certain guys like that, guys who have these plans to use their intellectual prowess to increase their quality of life, is always looking towards the future. And it's very difficult to convince a guy like that to stick with you, you know? I mean, his life is dedicated to improvement. So if he can improve upon you, then you know there is that factor. I hate to say it. I mean, because I know I'm shooting like a lot of intellectual brothers in the dick with this, but you know, I mean, you're right to tread cautiously. You know, I mean, hey, if you meet a guy in med school, I mean, you know, um, chances are he's not going to become a doctor and stick with his high school sweetheart. Um, is what it is, you know. So you're right to tread cautiously with guys like that. You are definitely wrong to avoid guys like that altogether. Those of you who do, and I get it. You know, I didn't get it when I was 20. I didn't get it when I was 22. I didn't get it when I was 24. You know, shit, I didn't get it when I was like 27 or something like that. I did not get it. You know, um, but yes, a worst case scenario for a woman, not a worst case, but a very bad case scenario for a woman is to invest her 20s into a guy who gets his PhD and then just leaves her. That is fucked up. And I would suggest that no upwardly mobile young black man should ever do that. Honor those who have behaved honorably towards you. Um, so, what I found is that later in my 30s, that black women have became very hostile towards brothers like myself, and not the younger ones, but the ones who were in their 30s themselves. And that was for two reasons. One, because they were overlooked by guys like myself. We also, BGS and others, have a physical requirement that Pookie and Ray Ray simply don't have. Um, they pussy is pussy to them, and my friends who are Pookie and Ray Ray, actually, those are not my words. Those are actually their words. Pussy is pussy. Um, so a lot of them have felt decades, or at least a decade of rejection from guys like myself. They will never get rejected by Pookie and Ray Ray, no matter how physically unappealing they are. They will always get it from brothers like us. It sucks, and it still happens. I still, I still do it. I mean, I'm a lot nicer about it than I was in my 20s, and that's because, the red pill helped me to understand where the women were coming from. And the anger and hostilities that they go through. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to add to that. I mean, no thank you is easy. I could say no thank you as easy as I could say hell no. Fuck you, you fat bitch. I mean, I could just say no thank you, or I'm taken, or whatever the most polite way it is. But anyway, so years of rejection by a certain type of black man has caused hostility towards that type of black man, followed by years of semi rejection. And a semi rejection is a guy who is a lame, who is physically attracted to you, but not really. What's the word I'm looking for? Intellectually stimulated by you, and don't really see a future with you. And he knows this, but he's keeping that from you because it's in his sexual best interest to do that. So there are guys like that, who keep these women in stables. It is, I don't know. And like I said, this could be a regional thing. This whole thing that that educated lames do not get pussy is, it's well, it could be regional. Anyway, and I'm not talking about myself here. I'm just talking about just in general. And this isn't I'm not talking about myself. This is the story, of female friends and things like that, and relatives, and their troubles, their major gripes, their secret gripes. They're Trust me, the ones on YouTube are not going to say this because they're speaking out of anger, for the most part. Their secret gripe is that they feel rejected and projected by the classic black men, and many of them are, um, and um, and that is why later in life, like after the baggage builds up, and then by their 30s, they are fucking pissed. I mean, they are fucking pissed at a certain type of black guy, you know, and they see these guys with white women and shit like that, and or light skinned bitches, and they are fucking pissed. And and then you get these lames, or you get these, classic men, or whatever you want to call them. So you get these dudes, who are in this situation later in life, um, and they're trying to get on the dating scene, in their 30s and shit like that. And they like, wait a minute, I got this, this, and this. How come you're not fucking with? How come you're not fucking with me? I'm assuming I never actually, met these dudes, but except online. And I'm like, something? These chicks have been ran through by educated lames. I mean, they expect that shit from Pookie Ray Ray. They expect that shit from Pookie Ray Ray. They do not expect that shit from educated lames. They don't. That is like a truest rejection there is. You know, um, their guard is down. The concept of a classic man, the concept of a nerd player, an intellectual player, is foreign in the black community, and these chicks are completely fucking blindsided and pissed later in life. And fellas, those of you in your 30s, that is the hostility you're dealing with. Don't be mad. If you're thinking about leaving the black community because of the way females treat you, don't. If you are a guy who spent your 20s shitting on black women and wonder why in your 30s there is a bunch of shitty black women, the reason is you. Is what it is. So anyway, that's my response. It's really an individual thing. Um, so should they leave? If the community is hostile to you, then yeah, leave that community. Definitely. Think about, explore deep and listen to what I was saying on the situation, because I think a lot of you quote unquote educated lames, aren't really understanding, where the hostility is coming from. Hold on, let me pause for a second. Get something to drink. Okay, I'm back. All right, so I thought of something while I was away, and I'm surprised I didn't think of this before. I think I was painting the narrative that educated lames are assholes or shit like that. And I do want y'all to be aware that um, guys like this, intellectual guys, productive guys, whatever you want to call it, are just as capable of player shit. Just to prepare you, know that, and don't be surprised if and when it happens. Um, that being said, we in um, the social climate as it stands right now for the past couple generations, a smart man is not going to rush into marriage. We're not. That's just not a smart thing to do. A man who even a poor man, who projects himself to having assets in the future, is protecting his future assets. So it is a lot more difficult to seduce an educated man in the long term. To his credit, he has to be cautioned. He's protecting his perceived future assets. So, sometimes it's not some player shit. Sometimes it's just, him covering his ass. Period. So, I know a lot of you ladies had a bad run with educated lames, but a lot of times it's nothing personal. And to be frank, and this is me talking about myself, I'm going to be completely honest with you. And this is to the ladies. I didn't even fucking know, excuse me. I didn't even fucking know. I swear to God, I didn't fucking know. I did not know the effects of what I was doing. I didn't know the effects that it was having on you. And the reason for that is simple. Y'all behavior, y'all the behavior, and this is not me blaming black women or anything like that. This is just me blaming American culture. It was a sexual liberation shit. Y'all were saying this, Y'all, I mean, okay. Here's what was going on. These chicks were on some sexual liberation shit, and oh, it's okay, I know that you be having other girls and shit. They not telling me that they were just, buttering me up for the ring and shit like that. They wasn't telling me. They was just all on some sexual liberation shit. Give him what he wants, and then hopefully, hopefully he puts a ring on it. They wasn't telling me that was their design. I thought that it was just some sexual liberation shit. I didn't know that I was just causing all this fucked up baggage. Real talk. So a lot of dudes, just didn't know. So, all right. Let me get back to BGS's question. All right. So, yeah. You can't really leave the black community because you are the black community. You can separate from the different tiers of the black community and improve things in your own tier, like Robert Smith, donating money to only graduates of Morehouse University, and leaving the more Pookie Ray Ray types to fend for themselves or figure it out. I mean, it's not like he covered everybody's bail in 2019. So I mean, that, I guess that is a form of it. So you could do that, but you probably never really actually can leave, because no matter where you go, there you are. And also, on one hand, on the other hand, if you cannot find what you are looking for, in the place that you're in the place that you live, um, then move. In the community that you're in, then move. Now, leaving doesn't mean that you're turning your back on it. It just means that you cannot maximize your potential where you're. I give you an example. My close friend and my girl's brother-in-law. In fact, I met her through him, or more through his wife. But anyway, he is from Africa, from West Africa, from Cameroon to be more specific, and he had a chemical engineering degree when he left. And he left because he could not find work, even with his master's in chemical engineering in Cameroon. There just wasn't a market for it. So no hate, he didn't hate. He didn't hate Cameroon or his family or the people that he was leaving. He knew that it was better out here in the U.S. Than it was out there. So he actually had to re-educate himself, and that's where I met him, and we became good friends. But he didn't. It wasn't no hate, and he still helps his people out. He got his family there. His wife has family there, and they still help each other out. But wasn't any hate. So you just did what was best for him, and he can actually do more for his people here than he can there. So it really depends on why you leave. But so once again, fellas, if you find yourself around people who are hostile towards you, first ask yourself why, as I did, which is why once again I don't hate black women. And then another thing you have to do is you have to never forget that you are the black community. I mean, just because you are academically inclined or whatever you want to call it, it does not mean that you have to be a giver. You can be a receiver of it, or you can give to yourself. Doesn't mean that you have to be as Obsidian would say, a community eunuch or anything like that. If somebody says, "What have you done for the black community?" you can always say, "I bought myself a house," if you did that, of course. Or I paid off my student loan. You know, Robert Smith. I paid off a black man's student loan, mine. You can say shit like that. I mean, you contributing to yourself is contributing to the black community. So you never actually have to leave it. Doing for yourself is doing for a member of the black community. I helped a young black kid get an education. Me. I bought a new car for a black man. Me. I made sure a black man stay out of jail. Me. I mean, no, it's not, you are the black community. You're never actually leaving it. You're a piece of it. So doing for yourself is doing for the black community. I mean, you can select others individually, but at the end of the day, you are the black community. So do for yourself. Is not doing for yourself is not leaving the black community. I think when people say should you leave, they're saying that should you divest in other blacks, and that's up to you. That's really an individual decision. I mean, but I can tell you this: going around calling niggas educated lame, is not going to help with the division. I mean, I know you're in a position to where you can't back down, but that shit didn't help. That shit didn't help. Hey, there's all kinds of insults you could have hurled at me, but that one was more to a demographic of black men. So is what it is. But I am fading out here. This was a lot longer than I expected. I hope that y'all answered your question, and game over. Peace.